Dina says yes. Ronnie then says she had heard he had died. Dina replies that even though he died, Layla made a pact with the devil and brought him back to life again, in order to harm them. Andy says he sometimes sees Hannum's spirit, and that their friends know that Hannum and Layla died burning in a fire. That's why they keep talking about spirits, and right at that moment, their grandmother arrives. She tells them to come inside, saying she's made something special for them. After going there, they eat the food even though none of them really feel like it. Meanwhile, we see the wife has gone to the house of that healer, Ki, the same healer we saw at the very beginning of the story. The one who had given the wife the charm to protect her house. And this healer knows everything about the wife's situation. There, the wife tells the healer that her daughter-in-law has become 2 months pregnant. She asks how she can prevent this and what she should do. The healer says it isn't that simple. He says those who serve the devil and then turn their backs on him are hated mercilessly by the devil in return. The wife says she knows, but she wants to take the punishment for her own wrongdoing herself. She says she doesn't want anyone else in her family to suffer for it. The healer asked, "Why is this happening to you? Did you leave the house?" The wife said, "Yes, my parents were ill, so I had to go to them." The healer said, "You didn't realize it, that was the devil's deception. They were not your real parents." The healer then poured water into a mirror and began chanting spells, trying somehow to help the wife. But at that very moment, the spirit of the sorcerer Zero appeared inside the mirror. It spoke to the wife, "The time for your end has come." And suddenly the mirror shattered, driving all its shards straight into the healer's mouth. Blood also poured from the wife's body. Before the healer died, he managed to hand her a small bundle of cloth to keep with her, saying it would protect her in a time of danger. Meanwhile, we saw Andy heading toward that abandoned room to see for himself what lay hidden inside. Dina went to her grandparents' room to search it carefully, and he told the queen to stay where she was. If anything went wrong, she only needed to scream once, and they would come to her immediately. We then saw Andy break the lock and enter the abandoned room. Dina entered her grandparents' room and found under the bed a necklace that had belonged to her grandfather. On the other side, the grandparents seated the queen before them. And then suddenly the queens saw blood pouring from their bodies. A massive axe was buried deep into the grandfather's head, and the grandmother's head fell clean off her body right in front of her. She was overwhelmed with terror at the sight. She had no idea what to do. Fear consumed her entirely, and right at that moment, Hannum crept up from behind and knocked the queen unconscious, which meant she was still alive. She had not burned to death, but the marks of those burns still remained on her face. Inside the abandoned room, a foul stench filled the air. As Andy traced the source of that smell, he discovered the real bodies of his grandparents. They were lying there dead. Someone had killed them in a horrific, brutal manner. The sight filled him with dread. On the other side, Dina found in her grandparents' room a calendar with a 30th marked, bearing the words, Garbing Sukma. The meaning pointed to something like a gateway of souls, and that date was today. Tonight was also the night of the full moon. She realized that something was surely going to happen tonight, and then she too was knocked unconscious in that room. Inside the abandoned room, Andy found an ointment used to treat burned skin. But why was it here? At that very moment, Hannum appeared before him, his half-sister and former lover, and said, "Did you think I was gone for good? I am alive, my dear. Salim saved me and brought me back." And Salim was one of the workers on Andy's farm. But Hannum revealed that Salim had in truth been one of her mother Layla's most trusted and loyal servants working for them all along. She said, "On that day when you set the fire and left, I was still alive. It was my mother who died. Salim took very careful care of me. He saw to my treatment. Even though I had wished to die alongside my mother, I wanted to forget everything. But the burn scars on my body and the wounds they left never allowed me to forget. They screamed at me every time, 'You must take revenge.' And that day finally came. I began doing small work at a hospital, and there I learned that your wife was 2 months pregnant. From that moment, I began to plan. I would not let you two live in happiness. When I told Salim, he warned me not to and said he would go to the police if I didn't stop. But did that change anything? When Salim stood against me, I killed him that very day. And we saw Hannum tear his heart from his chest after killing him and devour it with satisfaction. Then she turned to pray to the devil. She summoned the sorcerer Zero, whom her mother had resurrected through black magic, and asked him to help her avenge her mother's death. But Zero told her, "I tried to harm the wife's family, but I could not. She had protected her home with another healer." Hannum then said to him, "But did you not see? The wife of Andy, the son of the household, she carries a 2-month-old child in her womb." And when Zero heard those words, a strange satisfaction seemed to come over him. He said, "Then get them out of that house by any means, and on the night of the full moon, I will bring your mother back to life." And after that, Hannum went to the home of the wife's elderly parents and slaughtered them without mercy. Then, through the devil's deception, the wife's family was lured out of her home, all for the sake of revenge. When Andy heard all of this, rage consumed him, and he said, "How could you do this? If you wanted revenge, take it out on me. Why did you kill my innocent grandparents?" But Hannum only smiled, and at that moment, Zero came from behind and knocked Andy unconscious. Meanwhile, the wife returned home, but she found no one there. When she entered her parents' room and looked up at the ceiling, the entire place had transformed into something from another world entirely. And on the calendar, she saw the 30th marked with a sign, and written beside it, Garbing Sukma, meaning it referred to the gateway of souls. She understood what it all meant. On the other side, deep inside the forest, we saw Hannum beginning her dark ritual for the devil. The area was surrounded on all sides by goats' heads, and Zero brought forth a large calf. And we saw Andy's wife, the queen, lying unconscious inside a bathtub. Meanwhile, the two siblings are kept tied up. Andy says to let his wife go, that she hasn't done anything wrong. He says they can take him instead if they need to. But then we see the healer Jero reveal a twist in the story. He says it's now time for the mother to pay the price for this. He explains that when the mother had once made a pact with the devil through black magic to claim Harmon for herself, she had made a deal with the devil. And as everyone surely knows, the devil never does anything for free. He demands a sacrifice, and the mother had never wanted to sacrifice her own child to the devil. So instead, she had promised that if she ever had a grandchild, she would give that child instead. Hearing this, we now understand the truth behind Ronnie's pregnancy. This explains why the wife had reacted so badly and why she hadn't been happy about the news at all. Hannum then says that now she will tell the devil about each of them and take her revenge, and that she will bring her mother back to life, while Andy desperately begs her not to harm his child. But Hannum says there's nothing she can do about it, because bringing her mother back requires a pure soul, something only Andy's 2-month-old unborn child can provide. At that very moment, the full moon rises into the sky, and Hannum begins pressing down hard on Ronnie's belly, trying to force the baby out of her womb. Meanwhile, we see the healer Jero kill the cow he had brought along, and Hannum pulls the 2-month-old embryo right out of Ronnie's belly. And just how horrifying it gets is that she starts devouring the baby right there. All Andy can do is watch helplessly, unable to do anything at all. Right at that moment, we see the wife quietly arrive on the scene. She begins untying Andy and Dina, telling them not to make a sound, and asking them to forgive her. She says all of this happened because of her, that what she did was wrong, and that she should never have turned to the devil in the first place. Right then, we see Hannum's mother Layla emerge naked from inside the cow's belly, brought back to life through the sacrifice of the wife's grandchild. Hannum rushes to her mother, wraps a sheet around her, and embraces her, saying she has finally managed to bring her back. And right at that moment, something happens. The wife then says that she must bear the consequences of her own actions herself, and that it has to end now. She says she has suffered enough, and now it's time to put an end to it. At that point, we see her pour kerosene oil all over her body, and the moment she throws the object from the bundle given by the healer Ki onto Jero's body, the devil inside the healer Jero instantly weakens. He loses all his power, and right then, she finishes off the healer Jero completely with a knife. Meanwhile, we see Dina trying to stop her mother, begging her not to do something so reckless, asking who they would have left without her, but it is no good, as the wife sets herself on fire. She then runs straight toward Layla, embraces her tightly, and says only one thing to her, that they will meet properly in hell. She tells her to come and die together now, and right in front of everyone, the two of them burn and are completely destroyed. Hannum screams in agony, devastated that after working so hard to bring her mother back, someone has now ended her life again. Just as Hannum is about to attack Ronnie, Andy becomes so enraged that he grabs a stone and beats Hannum with it again and again, finishing her off there in the most brutal way. And somehow, the three of them manage to make their way back home from there. And that's how this movie comes to an end. To sum up the story briefly, both the wife and Layla had once loved Harmon deeply, but Harmon had fallen in love with Layla instead, and Layla had become pregnant with his child. But in order to win Harmon for herself, the wife made the very first pact with the devil. She used black magic to make Harmon entirely her own. But the deal came with a condition that if she ever had a grandchild in the future, that child would be sacrificed to the devil. But at some point, the wife managed to break free from all of this. She no longer wanted any trace of black magic or the devil's shadow hanging over her family. She wanted to live a good, honest life. But in the middle of all this, Layla returned along with her daughter Hannum, seeking revenge. They too turned to black magic for help. But fortunately, the wife's family survived the first attempt. Both Hannum and her mother Layla ended up burning in a fire. But by chance, Hannum survived. And everything she did afterward was purely to take her revenge. So the moral of the story, or the message this movie tries to convey, is that those who make pacts with the devil are unbelievers. And it shows what kind of fate unbelievers can face even in this very world. So friends, let us know in the comments how you liked today's explanation. Don't forget that. If you enjoyed it, please like, comment, share, and subscribe as much as you can. Because every single response from you all gives me immense strength to keep moving forward.